How's it going, everybody? This is BeatTheBush. Today, I'm going to go over the differences between the Mova P10 Pro Ultra Gen 1 and Gen 2. There's a slight price increase to the Gen 2 of about 30%, and you can tell the difference because the Gen 1 has this silver front to it, and then the Gen 2 has this kind of goldish color. The major difference is that the Gen 1 has 13,000 pascals versus Gen 2 26,000 pascals, which is double the suction power. I ran both of them at maximum suction power with paper shreds on carpet. Gen 2 appears to outperform Gen 1 by a small margin. Same extendable mop, same coverage in the extendable side brush. Side brush lift is the same. The LDS navigation is exactly the same in both of them. There's a laser that spins around. However, the front stain detection went from an RGB camera into a single line laser method. Main brush actually does not lift as much as a side brush, but they both lift the same amount. When I looked at the specification for the Gen 1, it actually does not have the speed of rotation for the mop and also the downward force. The Gen 2, however, lists this as 260 RPM with 12 newtons of force. This is about 2.7 pounds of weight across the two pads because I can hear the motors straining a little bit more because it's pressing a little harder. Dust box is the same, 300 ml. The clean and dirty water capacity is the same. As you can see, the base station is the same height, same width. Gen 1 washboard area. It removes easily. And on the flip side of this, there's like a little squeegee thing that moves around as the mop spins. It kind of squeegees all the water in this bottom area into the center port here where it sucks it up. In the Gen 2, there's no mechanical mechanism to squeegee anything. Those mops will just sit directly on here. When it spins, it'll scrape against this edge and all the water will fall down. To me, this is a bit more efficient and a bit less redundant. If you have any debris over here, you remove this little tray and you can empty it out. This washboard also has PTC heaters that'll heat up to 212 degrees. Of course, it's not heating up the entire surface, only this little bit of area here. So because it's not heating the entire area, the entire mop is not going to reach that temperature of 212. It'll reach a temperature somewhat less than that. Hot air mop drying remains the same. Mop drying time is considerably faster. This one takes hours, whereas the new Gen 2 takes only 1 hour. There's a fast charging with the Gen 2, so when the robot goes back, it can charge 30% faster. The battery capacity is exactly the same in both robots, 5,200 milliamp hours. That means because the robot has a twice as strong motor, it probably won't last as long. They stated as 198 minutes in this one, so if you use it at max power, it probably won't last 198 minutes anymore. Both robots have a side brush extender that'll allow it to reach edges and corners. As it approaches any type of corner, it'll extend out. Notice the brushes are longer than necessary, so it can brush all the way into the corners. In order to really reveal if the mop is pressing harder, I've set the wetness at a level of 1 out of 32, its lowest. I've also dried on some tea stains. We'll let the mop try to clean this up, and if it doesn't wipe off, we'll increase the wetness until it does. Here's a look at the tea stains. Well, dried, but I can smear off the very center still. Notice the robot's getting rid of any stains that the mop touches. Sometimes it might leave behind a sliver of stain right in the middle of the robot when the mop is extended. However, it knows it's doing that, so when it comes back, it'll mop those areas that it missed. To my surprise, even the level 1 wetness was still able to mop up all the tea stains that it comes across. There are a few places that it missed, such as here, here, a little bit along the edge, and here. So I'm going to run it again with a different path. It has a couple of different options like quick, standard, intensive, or deep. And hopefully it will take a different path and clear up whatever that's left over. It still left a little bit of stains everywhere. So I'm going to run it again on yet a different path. Very nice. The intensive mode got most of the obvious spots. Now we have the Gen 2 here. I have dry tea, dried for the same amount of time. Let's smear this. Smears a little bit, but not the edges here. Now I'm going to run the mop at 1 out of 32 wetness and see how it does. Well, it left some on that edge over there and a little bit up there. Let's mop it again on a different route setting. Still needs to clean up that edge over there, so I'm going to run it again on a different route. This will be the deep cleaning one. The deep cleaning got the stains on the edges, but overall it cleaned the stains on the first pass, even though I'm using the least amount of liquid. We were just looking at the side brush that extends out into the corners. Both robots will also extend the mops all the way to the edges, and as it approaches a corner, it will retract the mop so that it can turn in place, extend the mop back out into the corner, and then move on to the edge. Let's take a look at that again. It will move along the edge, comes to a stop in the corner, retracts the mop, turn in place, and then extend the mop back out again and mops along the edges. Having reviewed the P10 Pro Ultra Gen 1 robot already, I think this is a very, very value-oriented machine. It can do everything I want it to do, including vacuum everywhere pretty well. It can mop up tea stains, including the corners and edges, except the very corners because these are circular mops. It even does hot water washing, hot air drying. There are other lesser known brands that will sell robotic vacuums about at this price range. And sometimes they just fail horribly because they don't have the object recognition camera in the front. They would suck up cables and then the whole robot just stalls itself and you have to go and repair it yourself, pull it out and put it back in the dock. Overall, I think this is one of the best valued robotic vacuum that can do the job. With all the improvements, I'm kind of divided between the two. It really depends on how much you want to spend on a robotic vacuum. The double suction power is nice to have, but not absolutely necessary because most of the time, you're not going to run it at maximum anyway. You have the hotter mop washing in the Gen 2. However, the Gen 1 is sufficiently hot already to melt away any grease. So it's just a tiny bit better incrementally. You also have the RGB versus laser stain detection. In my test, it didn't matter too much. Overall, the improvements are very nice. That's why it's a little bit more expensive. However, I do not think it's absolutely necessary where it would make a Gen 1 obsolete compared to the Gen 2. Gen 1 will work just fine still. If you guys are interested in either of these robotic vacuums, check out my affiliate link down in the video description below. Thanks for watching this video. Until next time.